in a typical consumer goods organization, I mean, you would have your sales guys, and these guys will bring in all the revenues and profits. And then you've got the marketing guys, right? Their role is to ensure that consumer demand is created, and they make sure that the brand awareness is there so people know about the product. Then you've got the supply chain guys, right? They make sure the products are made and delivered to you. Then you've got the finance guys, right? They balance the books, make sure they got enough money to invest for growth. And then you've got the HR guys. HR. So HR guys, so actually what does HR do lah? So we'll find that out today. So guys, welcome to another episode of Find the Real, where I believe everyone has a story. It doesn't matter what your background is, what you do for a living. I believe everyone has an interesting story, and my role is to find those interesting stories, either for your entertainment or for you to be inspired, and hopefully it makes your life better lah. So with this discussion, I hope it's going to make my life better and your life better to understand what is this HR thing. So today, we've got my buddy, a HR professional, Shazli, with us. So Shazli, what's up, man?
Hey, man. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, thanks for being here. So we've got Shazli, who's currently the HR director for L'Oreal Malaysia and Singapore. And he's going to give us a few insights into the world of HR and also his journey in HR, how he started, what has brought him to this moment right now. And yeah, we'll just learn his story a bit. So Shazzo, as we like to call him. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you grew up?
Sure, bro. So I'm pretty much a KL boy. So were my parents. Spent most of my life in KL, except for a couple of years abroad when I was working. I want to say, normal childhood. Can't think of any major eventful things, but except for when I decided to go and study, typical Asian parents, like dad wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer. I was like, no, I don't think so. And I got a C5 for my biology, and that's when I knew that medicine is out of the question. So I said, okay, that's not going to work for me.
Well, Dala, so you chose to disappoint your parents by doing HR. Okay, so what did you study, buddy?
So like all HR professionals, I studied finance and accounting.
I'm going to fact check you on that, but okay.
You can, bro. I can show you my my certificate, my degree. I'm University of Nottingham alumni. So unfortunately, alumni with our disgraced ex-prime minister. But yeah. So I couldn't think of what to study initially. I actually, probably funny story, I wanted to do computer science at first.
Okay.
And long story short, with my sponsorship unit, we had a very sour relationship. I won't mention who. But then, through all these series of events, I had to change my degree and do something business related. And I said, okay, business will keep options open. And so I decided on finance and accounting. It was in my third year that I realized I really, really hated finance and accounting. So I said,
but one year to go?
One year to go. I said, just let's get that paper, let's get it over with, and then do something else, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so that was probably a quick background.
Okay, so before we go into the world of HR, if I remember correctly, you're doing something else. So let's talk a little bit about your journey before starting out in the world of HR. What were you doing, buddy?
Before I started out in HR, professionally, I've always been in HR actually.
Okay.
Initially, immediately after I graduated, and me being me, the idiot, a lot of people were like, after graduating, you take a break, you chill, you're going to explore the world, you do stuff before, starting work. But I didn't. I maybe had 3 weeks of a break, and then after that, I started working. Now, which I really regret. Please, if you just graduated, take a holiday, go and do something.
And I want to echo that as well, guys. Honestly, right, I also believe that right after you graduate, no, it doesn't matter if it's high school, if you finish your SPM or you finish your degree, right? Take a little bit of time off, because once you start working, it doesn't go back, buddy. All you have is 20 days off or something like that. So please take a short break, right?
Exactly, man. So I didn't. I immediately went into it, and then I started with my first job was with Saim Dabi, also in HR.
Okay.
And, why HR, a lot of people ask, was like I had spoken to, in those days, career counselors and, just random people that I'd spoken to. They were like, oh, you have a very, you're very people centric. You have your ability to create connections with a lot of people. Have you ever considered human resources? And I never had. I didn't know a lot of people who were in the field of HR at the time, especially studying finance and accounting. So I decided to try that as my first job, and 16 years later, still here.
All right. So what made you fall in love with it? Is it as part of the journey of you going through the many different parts of HR, or was it love at first sight?
Good question, bro. I can't say it was love at first sight. Necessarily. It was one of those things that you go through, you do it, and then you realize that, hey, actually, I'm not too bad at it. It's something that interests me, but that took time to build up. It wasn't from the first day. I immediately thought that, yes, you know what, it's like finding a soulmate kind of thing. It wasn't that kind of story for me, and being very transparent and honest. But yeah, I later realized that look, just because something wasn't immediately your click of a passion, but that doesn't mean that you're not good at it. And so I decided to stick on it. It really interested me in terms of how HR oftentimes, especially in Malaysia, goes unnoticed but has quite a profound impact on what happens in the organization. The way that employees behave, think, act, how you prepare them for the future, etc. And you have a lot of I would say influence, and you have a big stake in that. So it can go
either ways.
Either way, it can go very differently. At the end of the day, it's what kind of what kind of impact you want to leave behind, and how do you want to shape HR and impact on people in a humane way.
Keyword there being humane lah. I think HR has a rap. I think even when I started this conversation, like I do know a little bit what HR does, but a lot of you don't know. All right, so that's the thing. It's a unsung hero of an organization, right? So what I get from this is it was a journey for you. Like the passion was something that was built throughout the journey. So let's talk a little bit about that journey. So here you are in Sime Dhabi, right? What happened next?
So I started in Sime. I was in the HR information system team, and we were rolling out, new systems for the company, for the entire group. How to do your performance management online, how to leave application online. Before that, Excel, paper, not something you want to keep doing. So you start out with basics, but again, very profound. You make everything more efficient. And then I was thinking, and Sime Dhabi is a huge organization. This was of course before the split and before the demerger, and I figured that if I wanted to gain broader understanding of what HR really is, it's better to go into kind of a smaller organization where you get involved in more things.
Yes.
And something like a smaller consultancy company. So I went then into a HR consultancy called Hewitt Associates at the time.
Okay.
Now Aon Hewitt, and now Aon. And from then, you start getting involved in work with different clients. You start looking at the different HR practices, and you start seeing that, how can you advise them based on this wealth of knowledge that the consultancy has, and also at the same time enriching myself, by seeing how different things work in different companies. There's no one size fits all. So you have to be pragmatic. You have to understand the situation and then think about, what do you really want to implement? So that was, I would say the next step. And then I was very briefly in oil and gas for a while with Sapura Kencana at the time, when they were merging. Won't go into too many details, but I didn't stay there for very long. And then after that, I found BAT. Which was,
that organization?
Sounds familiar.
I think I met you there, lah. So tell us a little bit about BAT.
So BAT was it was an amazing organization. I would say, my career really only took off in BAT, and it was a place where I really felt that my the culture fit me. I made a lot of genuine friends, people on the same frequency as me. Exactly, this guy. So as you can see, even after BAT, we're still hanging out together. The kind of work that we did was very interesting, very fast paced, but very up to date with what the rest of the world was doing. And the other thing that really got me interested even more about the field of HR was how much priority BAT placed on the HR department, where you have a HR director sitting together with the rest of your board of directors or the rest of your leadership team, and that doesn't happen in every company.
Oh, it doesn't.
Right? Especially I would say medium to smaller size companies. This tend to be it tends to get seen more as an administrative department rather than kind of strategic, influential kind of area. So
which again goes back to the public perception of HR.
Yeah.
And I think that's where me as a marketeer who was there for 15 years, I think the organization did teach us a little bit about why is HR important. They put it up there on a pedestal that these are the things that we're doing to drive not just things like culture, not just things like systems, but for me what I took out was talent development, talent retention. So those were very important things for me. So so what happened next? So here you are, doing your thing in BAT, right? Moving up that corporate ladder, right? And what I like is, I think this potentially could be that pivotal moment where it incited that interest in HR in general for you, I assume.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
I was, how shall I say? Of course, I started out as the HR VP for the marketing arm, where again I met Mr. Amil. Fun bunch of people, crazy as hell, but that really drove you, kept you, on your feet, kept you thinking, kept you, and always engaged in kind of like healthy debates, healthy discussions about, okay, look, what's right for the company. And I really enjoyed that, and I would say that's why, both a combination of the culture and how much importance we put on HR practices is really why I kind of accelerated my career in BAT. That really, I wanted to give my best. I wanted to, change things. I wanted to make an impact. And so I always found myself getting put on, projects that would impact the rest of the organization. We implemented, or I implemented, flexible benefits for BAT at the time. So of course all of them enjoyed it. Now it's like from the boring optical, dental, benefits, and it's like, you would see the typical trend in December. Everybody's like, hey, how much optical do I have left? Sunglasses. Can you write out for me as a prescription? And we know all this.
Oh my God,
so.
our secrets are out. Non-flexible benefit companies, our secrets are out.
So we were like, and at the end of the day, I would say a typical HR department, that is administrative in nature, would find it a nuisance. Like, why are these guys doing this? Like, why are you finding ways around it? And why can't you just follow the rules? But if you think a step ahead, at the end of the day, it's like, well, you know what? We created this benefit for the employees. If they're not utilizing it, then it's not really a benefit. So why don't you evolve it to make it something that everybody else can enjoy? And so, rather than making it strict, like, okay, 500 ringgit for optical and glasses or contact lens and nothing else, to, hey, 500 ringgit, but you can spend it on wellness, you can spend it on gym membership, you can spend it on utility bills and things that, employees really need. And so that's how you can, make an impact, change things. At the end of the day, the company is not spending any extra money. It's the same pool of cash, but, what it translates to the employees, is profoundly different.
Yeah, as an employee, you really see the difference. You're like, okay, they are really making a concerted effort for us to spend that money. It's not like, oh, I'm going to roll over this money next year. No, so it changed the way we thought as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I remember at that part of your HR career, you also moved to Vietnam or Cambodia, one of those countries.
Cambodia.
Cambodia, right? So, tell us a little bit about that journey.
So, I would say probably fun story is, as I was moving up, the last role that I had in Malaysia was the head of HR for the operations side.
Okay.
And I'm sure you remember at that time, unfortunately we were in the midst of closing down the factory.
Yeah.
So it was of course sad, painful journey, of course, for employees that we had. But again, this is where you make the impact. Someone can do it by the book, can be very cold, can do it very calculative and mathematically, or you can be empathetic with the employees, making sure that they feel they've got the best, and you try your best for them as well. So we did that, and then I took a bit of a gamble because I knew that role was I got promoted in the role knowing that role was going to go away, and I looked at my boss as like, so boss, what happens after this?
Got pipeline nut.
She was like, no, don't worry. We've got you. I said, okay, fine. So I put my trust in the company and my boss, and sure enough, at the end of that, they were like, okay, look, we're going to send you to Cambodia. I said, okay, cool. I mean, didn't know anything about the country, hadn't been, but first head of HR of a country, and I said, great opportunity. So why don't we go? I got there and I remember the first day I met my general manager, and he was like, he's an ex-army guy, so very straight to the point. No warm hugs, no welcome. I remember sitting in his office on the first day, we are doing opposite each other, and he's not even looking at me. He's looking down, and he's like, okay, welcome to Cambodia. There'll be no honeymoon period for you. There's a lot of work to do. I said, okay, sure, cool. And we haven't sold much in the last 3 months, so we are backtracking a little bit. I said, okay. And then he said, we've been trying to close the factory here for the last 5 years, but the joint venture has never agreed to it. So I said, this is a great start. Is there, what else do I have to look forward to?
You come in early, we are closing a factory. It's all you, buddy.
So fast forward a couple of years, he and I are still very good friends. We actually bonded quite well. And I think this is, again, one of the great experiences of both BAT and, kind of what really made me enjoy the career. Again, people say you had that ability to bond with people. And he was a type of, his ex-direct reports would have, used to come up to me after that and be like, how did you manage to, bond with him? How do you manage to be his friend? And I was like, wasn't that difficult, honestly. But anyway, that side story. So Cambodia, I came, and my luck, just being fresh out of a factory closure in Malaysia. 5 months into the job, and bear in mind, 5 years, the joint venture said, no, we don't want to close the factory because it's an iconic landmark, it's something we want to keep.
You came in 5 months?
I came in 5 months later, the joint venture said, okay, now we'll close it. I was like, okay, go through this again and negotiate with the unions, and much harder now because unions don't speak English. You have to have an interpreter. Your culture you're not that familiar with, and this was one of the other things that really excites me also in the field of HR. And it's again that human connection, because I would go into negotiations with the union, and again I would have one of my team members there to translate. And we think generally Asians are non-confrontational people. We don't always argue a lot. We're not very, up for conflict type of people. And I thought, look, it's generally the same across Asia. But the Cambodians took it to a new level. They are even more polite. They are even more non-confrontational. And so, I learned this the first time when I came out of one of the sessions. And I said to my team, I was like, oh, that session went really well. Everybody was really happy. They're like, no, boss, they're really upset with you. And and I was like, but where? Everybody's smiling. They were like, okay. They said we'll agree, and we'll take the conversation to the next stage. And I just couldn't figure it out, right? So she was like, it's in the subtlety of the body language, just the way that they either they move an object, or the way that they react, subtle body language signs. And I was like, wow, okay, so start to pick these kind of things up.
Sounds like dating all over again.
I know,
read the room, read the body language. Ayo.
Imagine dating but with 13 other people in the room and doing it by a translator. So yeah, even worse. But I really loved that experience. And at the end of the day, again, people, my friends started calling me up. They're like, hey, everywhere you're going, factory closing. Don't come to my country. And I was like, I started to get this chop on my forehead. The closure,
the Closure
it's
King.
like that. Closure King is like that movie with George Clooney. What was it? Was it Up in the Air? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing that really made me think that, actually I was the right guy for the job was because at the end of the day, we did our best for the employees. We tried to get them the best packages that we could. We wanted to make sure that they were treated with utmost respect throughout the entire journey. And the heartwarming part for me was when we were doing the farewell. I remember, fast forward like 10 months, and we were doing a farewell for them at this hotel. And the chief officer of the union, he came up to me, he took my hand and he kissed it.
Oh.
And he was, of course, he couldn't say much, but I understood that it was kind of a
gesture.
gesture of deep respect and also a thank you and appreciation for what we've managed to do for the employees, because it's not easy at times when I remember those days where and again everything was hard copy paper, or the kind of severance papers that you go through, and you sit in the office. I didn't want to sign this in front of people, so I wait until everybody's gone home. You sit in the office late at night, you go through it, you read the names, you look up the details, you see they've got families, how many kids do they have, and that gets to you. So again, different people can take it different ways, but for me it was okay, look, let's make sure that we do the best for these guys, and make sure that they feel that they're respected as well. So so those were some of the key key things,
and it's
in
about
Cambodia.
and it's about doing the right thing, Shazli. End of the day, right? If it's something that is right for the employees, it's about doing the right thing. And
Exactly.
I think that's how you should hate doing it. Yeah. So here you are, and then a few months later, or a few years later, actually, you then left BAT and did a few other things.
Actually, even before, so I continue the funny story. After Cambodia, I was there maybe about 15 months, and then I get a call, and they're like, okay, time for your next assignment, Hong Kong. I was like, Hong Kong? Great, very nice. And I was like, check first. It's Hong Kong, no factory. I said, okay, take. So safe.
I'm not closing a factory here.
I didn't want to go through that
My
again.
reputation has changed.
And it was a different role. It was a talent role. So I said, okay, talent, typically you're not, as a HRBP on the front lines, dealing with employees. So typically you won't need to lead something like this. So I said, okay, great role. I accepted it. And then I got to Hong Kong. And then 48 hours in, got to my boss's office. And then she closes the door. And then she gives me this slip of paper she puts on the table, and she's like, sign this first. I was like, what is this? And she's like, it's a non-disclosure agreement. So for those of you who don't know, a non-disclosure agreement typically is for, a confidential project that's about to be, that the company is about to embark on, and you are, you're meant to keep it confidential. So I was like, oh, this is not looking good. Where exactly is this going? So I said, okay, fine. I signed it. And then I said, okay, look, tell me what's up. She's like, okay, you're going to be the regional project manager for the largest restructuring the group has ever undertaken. I said, okay, it's following me everywhere, and I was like, oh, by this time, starting to get a bit, a bit sick of it. But I was like, okay, fine, take the challenge. It was a very intense, 1 year in Hong Kong. But again, you keep the same principles in mind. You keep that employee focus there at at the core of what you do, and so got through it, and then like you said, a couple of years later, I decided to leave BAT.
I realized most of the roles. So we go back. We backtrack a little bit, right? So you had that stint in Sime Darby where you were cutting your chops. Then you went to that smaller organization Aeon, where you saw a little bit more in the world of HR because you saw how other MNCs approached you. Then BAT, I think, played that big part of your career in deep diving into the world of HR, and I believe building that passion. Yeah.
Yep.
So here you are. You've got your chops, right? You're seeing things in a bigger perspective, and now it's time to leave that organization and going forward to something new. So how did that transition happen for you to head to L'Oreal?
So another interesting story, I would say.
This is good lah.
Kind of like the way I describe it to my friends when I was telling the story back then. It's kind of like what's the word for it? Serendipity. I'll be a little bit corny. So I had known this headhunter for many years, like 10 years.
Okay.
She'd become a friend, and she'd always try to find me roles, but it never worked out. And then one day she gives me a call, and she's like, hey, I've got a HRD role for you. Great MNC, and I said, yeah, I'm definitely up for it. I was looking for a different industry as well, and something to kind of take my next chapter into of my career. And then I asked her, I was like, so after I'd done all the interviews, got the offer, and then a few weeks later I spoke to her, and I was like, so how did you get this job? Like, to then find me? Because at the end of the day, I just wanted to know a little bit more about how she came about this, And she said, one day I was on a holiday in Langkawi, and my son was playing on the beach, there was another kid, and they both started playing together. And then the dad came up to me and started talking and said, "Oh, look, what do you do, etc." And he said, "Oh, I'm the managing director of L'Oreal."
Oh.
And he asked me, "What do I do?" And she said, "Oh, I'm a headhunter." And it's like, I've got a job for you, and you need to keep it absolutely confidential. I don't want the big recruitment firms to be looking out for this because immediately word goes out.
Oh.
So yeah, it had to be on
What
A
are the
beach
odds,
in Langkawi. The kids had to be playing together. And I was like, wow, okay, it's if it's meant to be, it's meant to be lah. So everything lined up. I had a great conversation with the regional HR director at that time, and we really connected about, especially we shared a lot of common values about, passion for people, putting them first, and so I felt, that whole vibe was fantastic, and I said yes, okay, let me take the take the plunge and make the jump to L'Oreal.
And I echo that as well. I think one of the key things to anyone out there who's looking at joining the workforce or rejoining the workforce as a mid-hire is having a conversation with someone in the organization. And for me, culture is key. To the people who've heard my story, I spent 15 years in BAT, where culture was amazing there. Then I joined this company called Astro lah. Let's not talk about the culture there. A few great people there, not all of you, a few, right? But culture is very important to me, and I think that's something that you as an individual, you need to determine that yourself. So here you are, had a good conversation, assuming that the culture was great, and then you joined in, and I understand some huge, again lah, this transformation followed you. So tell me the
all
story.
over again, bro. But you made a good point about the culture thing, because the one thing I really worried was, would I be able to find a culture as good as BAT? Where you had genuine friends, you had it's just hard to explain, but it felt like family.
So I interviewed another BAT person before this. So to British American Tobacco Malaysia, if you need to pay additional people for hiring, we're all here. Even though we're not in the organisation, we can still help you. Yeah.
Great marketing, this guy. So
it's my job.
So yeah, bro. So I joined L'Oreal. Timing was, I would say, horrible. I joined on the first day of MCO 3.0. Right, so of course I didn't know it was going to be MCO when I signed the papers, but okay, that's what it was, and I didn't see the team or the company until like 3.5 months later. So anyway, first day, I called my GM because couldn't see him face to face. I was like, "Hey boss, first day at work." He was like, "Great, welcome on board. 2 members in your team have resigned, by the way." I was like, "Okay, thanks. It's a great start." Is this a common trend among all the GMs that they start with the worst news possible?
Drama follows you wherever you go, lah, bro. I tell you.
So I said, okay, fine. And I joined exactly around the time that the company was doing our annual engagement survey. So I was like, okay, good time to assess the situation.
Yeah, you can
see
gauge
what
the company.
Like.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. The results came out 3 weeks later. The HR department score was the lowest in the company. I was like, oh boy. I said, okay, I've got a job ahead of me, and a lot of stuff to fix and work on. And then 2 months later, I get another call from the regional team, and they're like, oh, you know what? We're setting up financial shared services in KL. And because it's going to be under the same legal entity, you're going to have to be involved and all that. I said, okay. It's a nice, warm welcome present for a new HRD. I said, okay, fantastic. And then 2 months after that, I get another call from the region, and they were like, okay, we've sent you another NDA via email. Please sign that and get back to us. And I was like, oh God,
another one.
I said, not again. I said, okay, God,
which factory am I closing?
Too much deja vu. Fortunately, we didn't have a factory, so okay, that was out of the way. But they were like, okay, you know what we want to do is we're going to make Malaysia and Singapore now a cluster.
Okay.
So essentially, combine the businesses. We've tried different models in the past, but look, now we're going to make it, one management team, one team covering both countries, and so essentially merge that operations. I said, okay, great. That's about December, and when are we supposed to go live? July. I said, whoa. Very ambitious timelines. I was like, and I mean, I said, look, okay, we can do it. It's not the first cluster in the group. And I said, but the previous cluster, how long did they have to set it up? They had 18 months. And I was like, and we get 8? And he was like, yeah, that's all you're getting. I said, okay, sure, thanks. And at the end of the day, look, I understand why, because the previous cluster was in Europe. They have a lot, their labor laws are a lot more protective. It's harder to get through, and so in Asia, it's not as I would say it's not as bureaucratic.
Okay.
So okay, fine. I could understand it's doable, but I was like, oh god, here we go again. But I would say the plus side was we didn't really have to let many people go because we were fortunate at the time that the regional headquarters and travel retail was also setting up in Singapore. So really, at the end of the day, we had maybe like 15 to 17 people who were impacted, and the rest of them we managed to find them opportunities in in these new entities that we were setting up in Singapore. So it was a good story. Not I would say not as emotional as the previous experiences, but yeah, it was still not something I want to do again in such an accelerated timeline for coming into a new role. But again, that's the challenge. That's what keeps me going, and at the end of the day, you do it the right way for the people.
I remember seeing you for lunch during that period, and that was a tough period, lah. The stress levels, I could see the bags under the eyes. It's like maybe 3 hours of sleep a day, and then I saw him very recently. A lot happier. Life is good. So huge transformation has happened, I'm assuming, right? So now I've got a few HR specific questions to understand HR problems a little bit better. But before we go into that, right, for everyone out there, Shazli, okay, imagine I'm someone who doesn't know anything lah. What is HR? What do they do?
Great question, bro. So I have to level with you. Yesterday, before knowing that I was coming for this interview, and I was like, how do I put this in a way that people understand? So I have to be honest, I went on ChatGPT and I was like, so what does human resources do? Explain it to me in a funny way.
Let me see what AI says, bro. What did AI say? Come.
So in case anything happens to me and people go through my search history and they're like, why is the HRD searching what human resources do? Is this guy some kind of a fraud? So I'm just putting it out there.
To Shazli's boss, he did that transformation for you. He's just checking only.
So I did that for you guys, to see how we could break it down into something simpler.
Okay.
And something a bit more fun. Because at the end of the day, like you said, people really don't know what HR does.
Yeah.
It's like, hiring, firing, how much is my leave balance? A day, what's my entitlement, benefits?
About that.
That's about it. So, and if I look at it, people see, okay, at the start and at the beginning, which is the hiring, firing bit, but they rarely see what happens in the middle, which is, the whole employee life cycle. Now ChatGPT tried its best lah, but I said, okay, look, it's
how many percent did he get right, bro?
Actually, ChatGPT was quite accurate.
Okay.
It's just that I wanted it to portray the journey in a more fun, interactive way, which it still needs some work, but it did a good job. The key thing I would say, like at the very beginning, of course, HR just thinks that, okay, I interview a candidate, I give you a salary offer, you accept, join, and it's never as simple as that. You have to convince the candidate that, first of all, you have to assess, make sure that the role fits, the role that we're looking for. Just because someone is, let's say a key account manager in, for example, Shopee, will not be the same as a key account manager in an FMCG industry.
Of course.
But if to someone who doesn't understand that, and if you just purely go by titles, you would think, what, I do a LinkedIn search, I get all the key account managers, and these are the people I'm going to interview, and put it in front of the hiring managers, and they're like, hey, this is not, not the kind of skills we're looking for at all. So you need to understand the business as well. And not just business, but of course then, you have to have your HR knowledge. You have to be able to convince them, explain to them, look, culture, what is going to be competitive. And you kind of have to be a good negotiator to see, okay, look, what's the right level of salary I can entice them to come in. That's also going to work for the company. And then once they're in, we go through the employee life cycle. How do we make sure that they feel welcome, they're on board? How quickly can you accelerate them to being ready to do the job that they're doing? Because, coming in fresh, every organization is different. I don't know what the systems are. I don't know what your processes are. I don't know the whole ecosystem of stakeholders that I need to manage, and at the same time you're trying to figure out your job, and life goes on. You've got families, you've got people at home. So how do we accelerate that? That process again that comes under HR, and then how do we look at making sure that they have career aspirations? How do we make sure that employees feel recognized and rewarded for the work that they're doing? How do we take care of things like mental health? How do we put in policies that strike the right balance, that can make them feel rewarded, that can make them feel they have time to take a break? And at the same time, we are continuously looking forward, because you have to see what kind of skills that the business needs, and how we are going to either upskill internally, or how do we figure out what kind of people to get
outside
in.
Yeah.
It's a build by borrow model, I would say. You either build it internally by training, you borrow from other companies in the group, or you buy and you get people externally, because that it's going to take too long to build the skills, or we just don't have it. So all that is another I would say a key part of the employee life cycle. And then along the way, other things, managing performance, managing non-performers, managing structural changes, making sure that you're always in tandem with the business so that you can advise them on what to do. And making sure that you continue to stay relevant and have a seat at the table, making sure that processes, systems are up to date so that the organization can be efficient enough. And then finally comes that the end of that life cycle. But there's all of that goes in between. Giving them visibility into career paths. How do you prepare them for next roles? How do you make sure that line managers are good enough to lead their own people? Because at the end of the day, if you are a bad line manager, employees don't stay for you, no matter how good the salary is, no matter how fulfilling the job is. It takes two to tango, and we're a very young organization. We are about 68% Gen Z millennials. So you have a lot of young managers, first-time managers, people who haven't really had that experience yet, or been in long enough to see, or been under different managers to see how they do it. And they are trying to then lead the next generation that's coming in. So it's difficult, trying to find that balance, trying to get them ready, trying to prepare the employees, trying to prepare the managers, and at the end of the day, make sure that everything stays in a right enough balance that you don't break it at the end of the day, and you don't break the machinery.
You know what it sounds like to me? Sales and customer service, right? Like basically your role is, number one, we go under talent attraction, right? You're trying to get, you're attracting the brand, you're attracting people in. So that's the sales portion of it. Then you've got the onboarding portion of it, right? It's the training. It's just like sales, right? You got to train people how to use the product per se, right? And then you've got retention, right? Loyalty programs, so on and so forth. That's customer service, I would assume, right? And then in between there, you've got the culture bit, you've got the staying relevant bit, you've got the systems upgrade if needed, right? Then you've also got the continuously looking for new talent, either via upskilling yourself either via new talent or upskilling your current employees, which is development as well. So that's how I see it. It sounds very sales and customer service to me, but in the business of talent, people, and culture.
Yeah, spot on, man. I would say that's a very accurate description. You can be HR, lah, bro. So are you looking for HR role?
This has become interview already. We will have a chat after this, lah.
HR is always on the lookout for talent. Anytime, anywhere.
Well done, lah. So in a nutshell, that's what HR is to me. How I pitch it is actually like sales and customer service. You bring them across the entire cycle. I like that, the employee life cycle, right? How do you bring that journey across, bring that employee across that journey? Yeah. So a few interesting HR things that I just want to have a discussion about. I just picked a few topics that I think is interesting. What are your thoughts when it comes to building the employee brand? How big an effort, or what are the things that you are currently doing to help in terms of talent attraction and talent retention? What are the big ticket items that you look at?
No, that's a good question, man. And I'll be, again, people in my organization know that my style is to be very transparent and honest. And before I joined L'Oreal, even, I'd be very honest that L'Oreal didn't have a very good reputation. And some people were like, "Are you sure you want to join?" I've heard this, I've heard that. And I was like, well, look, at the end of the day, every organization has,
the stigma.
Stigmas is one, but, there's always, bad news travels faster and stays longer than good news, right? Because it's more sensationalized.
They should print that on a t-shirt. That's good.
I know. and that tends to stick. So I give you an example, like even in BAT, up until the time that I left, people, candidates were still asking us that, oh, I heard it's compulsory to smoke in order to join BAT, and I heard you guys still smoke in meeting rooms, and we've discontinued this 15, 20 years ago. But that perception sticks because people, they find it's more sensational. It's it's more fun to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about, hey, you know what? Wow, we gave these guys some recognition awards, and okay, you know what? It matters to him, not necessarily to me. So I felt the same thing for L'Oreal, but I said, look, that's where you go in and you have the opportunity to make an impact. And so coming in, I was like, hey, actually, look, it's a great organization, right? The leadership team were very, how shall I say, we bonded very well together. We worked really well together. We all had great relationships, and we then. And that allowed us to see, okay, look, what are the other areas within the organization we wanted to tackle? But one of the first key things was to tackle this perception, and that directly impacts your attraction of candidates in the market, right? And this is another key thing. So we started putting together a plan. We were like, okay, what are the universities that we currently engage with for young talent, for management trainees? And we're like, okay, we only focus really a lot on the private universities. Let's expand that to the public universities. We wanted to get as much diversity as we could into the organization, and the other thing was, needless to say, as a beauty cosmetics company, we are also about 69% female. We wanted to attract more men, and when we speak to any of the male candidates, they're like, but I don't really know anything about makeup, lipstick. I don't use it. And it's like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you are selling a product, you are marketing a product, you're dealing with supply chain, and at the end of the day, look, the fundamentals are there. And so you don't have to feel this imposter syndrome, like, I don't use it, I don't know anything about it, and so I can't work here, right? It's a complete myth. So we said, okay, look, we needed to put more ambassadors, more male ambassadors in the front to tell people that, look, you know what? It's a great, fulfilling career. It's a fun place to work, and let them tell their own story. So we did that. We started participating in career fairs. I found out that, we hadn't been to like a Graduan career fair in
you guys were in Graduan this year, if I'm not mistaken.
We were in Graduan this year, both in UK as well as the Malaysian career fair. We started participating in employee awards. And a big shout out to my corporate affairs and engagement director as well. She created a lot of platforms for us to engage with public, the public audience. And so we did something recently called the Open House, where we had kind of a gallery of all the things that L'Oreal does, all the initiatives that we have. And we invited, we had Ministry of Education there, we had our vendors, external partners, because at the end of the day, all that they see and the only interaction they've had is with the person that they're working with, not necessarily what, L'Oreal is about or what we do. And this was a chance to show them from every angle. What do we do in terms of sustainability? How are we being responsible to our ecosystems? What are we doing in beauty technology? How are we pushing the fronts on digital? How are we integrating data and analytics into what we do? What are we doing on young talent programs? How are we increasing our outreach to communities? So all of that, we had Talent Corp, we had Graduan, we had NACTA, we had a few, young talent and student body organizations. And they were like, wow, we didn't know you guys were doing all of this. You should participate in some of these awards that we have, or these are areas that we can partner in, because frankly, what you guys are doing, a lot of it is already top notch, but the thing is, if we didn't speak to them, we wouldn't have known. They wouldn't have known, and we wouldn't have known, right? Because it's always, I would say the pitfall is you're very focused on what you do in the organization.
And you don't send it outwards.
And you don't see it outwards. You don't know whether, look, how are we against the rest of, all the other companies out there. Some of the things we know we are good at, for example, again, policies to try and get, let's say, gender balance. So we know our paternity leave is the best in the country at 6 weeks. I tell you, no other company offers that much. And
so would you expect more childbirths for L'Oreal stuff moving forward?
If they do, I mean, it's up to them. We encourage it. It's you should have a good balance between work and starting a family as well.
6 weeks.
Yeah, and maternity leave is 4 months. I mean, that's, I would say, pretty decent compared to other companies. But, so all of this, they were like, hey, wow, you guys are doing a lot of great stuff. So why don't you participate in this? So talent attraction, branding, of course, it's a big topic for us. And how do we continue to make sure that we shape that narrative, we tell people what we're doing. And I give you another good example, like we are now starting to build, we just created a new role called Chief Data Analytics Officer. And, basically to look at how do we make, how do we organize this chaos of the data of wherever it is, make sure that we can put insights, analytics into place, make sure that decisions are data driven, and we are looking out for roles like data scientists, data analysts, but to an outsider you would think, hey, beauty company, you want marketeers, you want product managers, you want people, education, technical specialists who know how to do with hair color, makeup, etc. You wouldn't think that, oh, this is a place that I would go if I wanted to do a career in data or data science. So we have to put that message out there, otherwise people are not going to know that this exists.
Yeah, basically it's like any consumer good organization out there.
Yeah.
It's just that the good that you're selling just happens to be beauty products.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. You've got the full gamut. You've got everything like we mentioned. You've got supply chain, finance, data analytics, marketing, sales, the full gamut. It's just the category that you're in. Now, we come in this modern age lah. Well, people like to talk about this term flexible working, work from home and thing. I mean, to be fair, I'm sales through and through. To the people who work under me last time, so lah. Sales and working from home is a little bit challenging lah, right? So sales
quite right, impossible. But
So sales guys will find it very difficult, But I've seen a lot of roles flourish when you work from home. What are your thoughts on flexible working hours and working from home?
I think there's a lot of debate right now about it. Especially if you look at America, it's like, oh, come back. Elon Musk is like, if you're not at your desk, we will assume you've looked for another job. And then you have these surveys coming out from big research houses. PwC released a survey finding as well, and the employee is very likely, I can't remember the exact number, but one of the top reasons for them willing to look for another job or what they would consider in a new employer is that they provide flexible working, right? And that means working from home. So at the end of the day, look, the demand is there. Employees see it, and at the end of the day, I would say, from an organization perspective as well, there is definitely value in flexible working or working from home in a structured manner, right? And within kind of the boundaries and the framework that the organization has, because you especially in a country like us, if you look at the time taken to commute, you look at you need to put kids to school, you want to beat the jam, we spend, and another study showed that Malaysia was one of the worst, I think top 5 in terms of number of hours spent in commute.
Yes.
And if you take that into lost productivity because people are just spending time on the road, you're frustrated, nobody wants to be in an hour and a half, 2-hour jam, and you could translate that into better productivity, right? Give employees that flexibility to decide, of course within reasonable means, when they can work from home and when they come to the office. So I'm a very big supporter of it. I think it should stay. I think at the end of the day, we should continue to encourage it. It's great for especially for people dealing with if you've got a long day full of meetings, you don't have that much time to travel. It saves you a lot of time. Great for mental health. Great for people to be better connected with their families as well. So I'm a big supporter of work from home.
Okay, now in closing, buddy, right? We look back at your HR journey. Now, to anyone who's starting their career in HR or is currently in the world of HR, I mean, what advice would you give them in terms of moving up within the HR corporate ladder or embracing HR as a whole? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so for people who think that HR administrative, boring and all that. No, I mean, I would say you just haven't joined an organization where you have been able to see, kind of the influence and the kind of change that HR is able to implement in the organization. And
I agree, dude.
very simple things are, as a closing example, because people often think that, well, how much can you really influence through policy or through practices? And I was discussing with one of my colleagues, because we have when we were looking at our data of leave utilization, and we're like, hey, it's not everybody's utilizing their leave. 70-75%, and we want to encourage people to take leave, because look, at the end of the day, don't burn out. Your well-being, your mental health is equally important to us, and you need to make sure that you're taking breaks. Now, a lot of organizations have this practice where if you don't finish your leave, you can carry forward some of it to the next year, right? Which is quite common. But what one of my colleagues was saying that they do is that we do something similar, but we've tweaked the mechanics.
Okay.
So instead of, let's say you start out with 20 days of leave a year, you're allowed to carry forward 5. So most people will, okay, I use 15, balance 5, I carry forward. Now what they do is that only if you fully utilize all 20 days, then we give you an additional 5 next year, which is a great way to encourage people to start prioritizing themselves.
Yes.
To say that, look, okay, there is a reward mechanism. I take care of myself, I take time out, and you know what? There's a reward for it at the end of the day. And that's where, the policy kind of influences and changes.
This is awesome,
mindset,
dude. This
behavior.
is awesome. You reward people to rest, recharge, re-energize. And that's amazing. I've never heard of this before. Wow.
Yeah. I was hearing it, for the first time, and I was like, oh, idiot, why didn't you think of that? Like, it's such a simple concept.
Yeah.
So I was like, after talking I got on the line with my rewards manager, and I was like, okay, we've got to find a way to do this. So yeah, spoiler alert. I mean, to people in the organization watching it, we haven't implemented it yet.
Calm down.
I literally just spoke to him about it yesterday. So it's going to take some time, but it's on my mind, yeah.
All right, to all HR professionals out there, you can copy this with pride. I think Shazli is okay with it, right?
Go ahead. I no patented right, so yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, hey Shaz, thanks, man. Today has been good. I mean, I know you, right? But to hear your journey and for you to reiterate a little bit what is it that HR does, and your thoughts on a few of the burning topics that I had, it was an interesting conversation, dude. I can see the love of people is there for you.
Thanks, man.
And I mean, if the world of HR after this I think you can do sales, bro. It's the same, bro. Same, everything is it. Same thing is about galvanizing people, impacting, influencing. It's sales, bro. So if you ever want to sell something, we can do it, lah.
Likewise, for the salespeople, you can join HR also. It's both ways.
He's pitching. All right, so let's talk about a few fun stuff, lah.
Sure.
Right. So, other than being a HR professional, I mean, what do you do for fun, man? How do you unwind, rest, recharge, and relax?
So good question. I mean, I do a few things, and of course, for those of you here, you didn't get the chance to see it, but we are sitting in this beautiful studio that Amil has, which is actually his jam studio, and so I play the drums.
He's not bad. He's not bad.
So we had a little bit of a jam session before this. I play a few percussion instruments. I've been playing the tabla for 16 years.
Yeah.
Donkey years, and then I like a lot of outdoor stuff, jogging, hiking. I did my first full marathon in 2019. Painful act. Don't ask me my time because it's horrible.
It's okay, you completed, bro. 42 clicks,
yeah,
right?
42.
I can't even drive 42 kilometers. Look at this fella.
Then I like hiking. I've done Mount Kinabalu twice. I did the Everest Base Camp in 2019 as well.
Yeah,
so all this pre-COVID takes, and then fortunately I decided to go ahead and do it because for 3 years you couldn't do anything. But I'm also quite I would say adrenaline junkie, bro. I love traveling, but my wife, of course, this scares the shit out of her because she's not as much as adrenaline junkie as me. And I'm always looking for the craziest things to do. So we were in New Zealand at the beginning of the year, and I was like, skydiving, yep, okay, let's do it.
Sign me up.
Bungee jumping, yep, sure. And and I loved it. And people were like, but how was it? Like, were you not terrified? I was like, yeah, a little bit, but that's the part that excites me. And would you do it again? Yeah, definitely, I would.
So you're still married after this?
Yeah, bro, still. No, she didn't come with me, lah. I clarify that. Of course, I said I'm going, but yeah. So I love all this kind of stuff. Love outdoor stuff. Love sports.
What do you play, man?
Yeah. I play football. Not very good at it, but I like it. Badminton. Once in a while, casually play some tennis. So yeah, jack of all trades, not necessarily master of any.
To anyone who thinks tennis is easy, it's not. Okay, if you think you play badminton, you can play tennis, cannot. Trust me, it's damn hard. Okay, so let's say, right, I was to take your handphone right now. I'll check your Spotify or Apple Music. Like, what are the top 3 bands or songs that's currently in your playlist?
Quite interestingly, the one that's been on, I wouldn't say embarrassingly, I mean, I do like the song, but the one that's been on loop for a while has actually been Troye Sivan's Rush.
Okay.
The first time I heard it, I was like, wow, super catchy. I've just been playing it on loop, and my wife was like, how many more times are you going to listen to the song? It's like, few more times. I'm not done with it yet. But I'm also a big indie fan. Other bands like let's say Rex Orange County, Father John Misty was my wedding walk-in song.
Yep.
So yeah, I am a little bit less mainstream. Not that I cannot lie on. You won't find any 1975 on my playlist. For the last couple of weeks, that's for sure. But some Strokes, because I was really looking forward to that. But
yeah, I heard they are doing a second concert in Singapore. Second day.
Yeah, man. Second day.
So do make it for the concert. I mean, it's the Strokes, dude. Right?
Yeah.
So I asked this to all my guests, lah, right? What are the top 3 things for you to eat, right? That you can find out there, and where can we get them?
Wow. So I love Indian food. Let me put it out there. I have this running joke with my wife because she likes Indian food, but
not your level, lah.
Not my level, lah. So she's like, every time she asks me, so saying, what do you want to have for dinner?
Yeah,
I'm like, Indian food. She's like, oh, why did I even bother asking you? So yeah, so Indian food definitely.
So where, bro?
Let's say a good banana leaf rice, Ganapati mess.
I knew it. I just had Ganapati mess earlier this week, right? Crab rasam, to die for.
Northern Indian food also. Let's say places like Namaste. I heard Qureshi in KLGCC is really good, although I haven't tried.
Haven't been, yeah.
But yeah, so Northern Indian food I really love. A good Sarawak laksa in Sea Park, not far from our old office.
Okay.
And let's see what else. Top 3. Maybe a good duck rice, bro. Unfortunately not in Malaysia, but
not easy to find.
London-based water duck rice.
Oh.
It's far, I know, but
yeah, I remember when we were in London, we actually had that duck. I remember that clearly.
Good stuff, huh? Worth going back for.
Yeah, man. So Shaz, again, thank you so much for being on this podcast. Again, we not only heard a little bit about your HR journey, but your thoughts on a few of the topics as well. So in closing, right? If there's anyone out there who wants to learn a little bit more about maybe your organization, or maybe connect with you if they want to ask a little bit more, like, deep dive on your thoughts on some of the HR issues out there, how can they connect with you or the organization?
Sure. I mean, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just search Shazli Ghani. You'll be able to find it. Anyone in the organization, I would say, if you do a quick search, L'Oreal Malaysia, you'll find a bunch of people. Look for connections. At the end of the day, that's the best thing to do. Or if you just look for L'Oreal Malaysia HR, ask anybody in my team. We'll be happy to tell you more about the organization.
All right, so there you have it, guys. Thanks again for being here, and guys, here's another episode of Find the Real, and looking forward to catch you in the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for having me on, bro.